And welcome to episode 65 of the TechnoBuffalo Show. I'm one of your two hosts for today, Sean, editor-in-chief of the site, and I'm joined by managing deputy editor Todd Hazelton.
Hey guys, you paused for a second there. I thought maybe your time machine was going again. Which would be fair. Today is Back to the Future Day. Your time.
I already went back to the future and came back. But still no flying cars.
Yeah.
So how are you doing this week?
I'm good. Busy week. I just sent out the newsletter, which sort of talks about. It's funny. It's nice. The newsletter, we send it out usually on Wednesdays, and I either write it on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, and it covers like what went on during the week for people who aren't subscribers to it yet. And it's always crazy how much happened in the past 7 days. Like, I don't know. I go back and I'm always like, wow, that was a pretty busy week. And this week we had the Nexus unboxings on Monday, I think the embargo was. Today we had the Surface Pro 4, and we'll be bringing the review of that. We also had the A9, you can talk about for a little bit, from HTC, the One A9. Gaming had 4 reviews. We had 2 peripherals, which were fun. One was a steering wheel and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff. So I guess
hold up the One A9 again.
Yeah, the iPhone.
Oh man, I've only seen it in still photos.
Yeah, in person. That's the thing. I feel like a lot of actually one commenter said like something nasty to me today, like that. I don't know, that I don't make any sense or something. But come on, like look at it in person. I saw somebody yesterday with an iPhone 6. I was at an HTC event, and I know review units had been seated, and I was like, oh, they have the A9 too. And then I realized, oh, never mind, that's just the iPhone 6.
I mean, I like HTC. Don't get me wrong. I've had HTC phones. My mother is a big fan of the HTC One A9.
Yeah.
That looks a little too much like an iPhone.
Yeah. So what they're saying, and oh shoot, I should have brought the phones out before the review. But what HTC's argument is, and I can understand it for some perspectives, but is that the lines, okay, the antenna lines you expose, that was done before on the M7. HTC did that, okay, and then Apple took that. That makes sense. And then they also said that the rounded, kind of flatter design was from the Desire series, specifically the Desire 816, and I can see that. But those
when
are
you merge the two together,
yeah, right. So then Apple released a phone that doesn't look like either of those, but has the antenna lines. Okay, they copied the antenna lines. But now HTC comes in, merges them. It looks like the iPhone and says we didn't copy the iPhone. No, come on. So I think it's very similar looking. That said, who cares, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and I think that's what some commenters and people on the internet aren't understanding when journalists and pundits are saying, like, well, it looks like an iPhone, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's running Android. It's a great device so far, and at $399 with Marshmallow and all that, I mean, I think it's very exciting. So,
well, okay, let's backtrack for just a second here. Almost all phones now are the slab form factor.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you X amount of space to work within.
Right.
That means that, yes, there are going to be points where you look like somebody else because there's only so many things you can do with that form factor.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, I agree with you. If it's a good phone, it's a good phone. I don't care what it looks like.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Apple's proven that it has a popular design on its hands, right? And sure, Apple's been using aluminum, but HTC has too, and solid bricks of aluminum, which are beautiful. But HTC previously would sort of have that bump on the back so it fit your palm, and I think they actually worked with the battery so that it filled that space specifically on the M7, the first one, M7. And then they didn't do that here. It's got a smaller battery, but what they're saying is that features like Doze and Marshmallow, and which is the power management, will help. And the new Snapdragon 617 processor will help you get good battery life with this. And right now I'm at 92%. It's been off the charger since like 7 a.m. So, but I haven't been using it like crazy this morning. But it is noon here.
You have a visitor behind you for those watching on the video show.
Sorry, my puppy is awake today.
Well, overall, and as we always state in situations like this is not the official review of TechnoBuffalo. How is the phone so far?
So far, it's great. And I really like, I was talking to people yesterday at HTC, and I was saying, I'm one of those people, I know we've moved on to cloud storage, and you can get 128 gigs of storage and stuff, but I'm one of the people that really likes micro SD card slots still. This has one, and with Marshmallow now, you can actually format it so that it's used as local storage. So this has 32 gigs of onboard storage. You have the micro SD card formatted properly, then you're just adding on, so like local storage. So the apps actually sit fully on that, as opposed to where you can only move parts of the apps over the micro SD card, which is really convenient. But I noticed when I was going through it that once you format it, it says like this micro SD card can only be used in this phone. So I don't, which seems crazy. Like, does that mean it's done for, or can you reformat it? I don't know.
I would assume you could reformat.
That's what I would assume too, but I haven't done it yet. So,
but I love the fact that it'll do up to a 2 terabyte micro SD card.
Yeah, which we don't have yet.
I know
so
we don't.
G4, right?
So let's say there was a 2 terabyte micro SD card out there right now.
Right.
The idea that something that small can hold more than my desktop.
I know. Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
It
I
truly
think I
is.
still have 128 gigs in my MacBook here, and I mean, I could see that easily with this phone. Which actually, so now I have a reason to buy that 128 gigabyte micro SD card I've been sitting on forever, Sean.
Yeah, every time there's a sale, I point it out to you.
On the site, we publish the sales whenever they hit Amazon, and I've been waiting to click buy on it, but I haven't yet. But anyway, so I'm really liking it. Great phone so far. At first, my first hands-on, I played with the camera, and I thought it was really, really atrocious. So far, since I've had it since last night, a little bit more, it's better. And I believe when I first check it, I checked the camera module. It's the same module in the OnePlus One and the Nexus 6. But of course, software makes a big difference. So whatever HTC's done on that side.
Cool. Well, I look forward to reading all of your thoughts on it. Yeah. I'm not in the market for another phone right now, but it's always nice.
Me neither. But I saw the garnet red one, which is like a deep red, like a cranberry, and it's beautiful.
That does look pretty.
And you can't mistake that for an iPhone.
I hate it when companies, just call it red.
Yeah, all the crazy names they have.
Yeah, because I was doing the product page yesterday morning. I was just like, no, I'm not calling you garnet red. I'm just calling you red.
Red, yeah.
Get over it. Right. It's not happening. But whatever. That's Samsung is notorious. Arctic white.
Yeah, for these crazy names that you see.
Carbon black. Well, when I was out in Irvine, I went and bought I traded my Bose QC15s for QC25s, and they had different color options now. So I got the QC25 triple black.
Oh, wow.
Yes. They're really black.
Were they like shiny or something? Like
it's just everything. The trim, everything is black.
Nice.
Wasn't that big of a deal. But I was just like, I just like having something that says triple black.
Triple black.
Because it's on the case. Triple black.
Nice. Sounds fancy.
It sounds fancier, exactly. So now the interesting thing about the A9 is that it feels, looking at the product page, at the specs, like it's a mid-range phone, but they're calling this a flagship.
Yeah. Okay. So that was one thing too that had to be clarified. And actually, it takes a lot of clarification. In the United States, it is a flagship phone, and it will replace the One M9 as such. In other markets, like the UK, it is a hero phone and will be sold alongside the One M9. But get this, in the United States, it costs $399 with 32 gigs of storage and 3 gigs of RAM. In Europe, it will ship with 2 gigs of RAM and 16 gigs of storage, and it costs more. So it's very confusing. I know I heard the story on how this happened off the record, so I can't really talk about it, but it's interesting. But I think HTC made the right move in the United States, where it has to go up against, and it has to go against these phones in other markets too. But they're separate divisions of the company. In the United States, where it has to go up against the Moto X Pure, has to go up against folks who are looking at the OnePlus 2, even the OnePlus 1 in some cases, Zenfone 2, all these other low-cost phones. So I think that was smart. HTC has the brand name. They can certainly ship units, which we've seen OnePlus has a problem doing. And I think for that price, you get a good phone. One thing, though, and I need to play with it more, is the Moto X Pure. That also starts at $399, but it has a Quad HD display, a larger display. It's also water resistant in some regards. You can customize it with all kinds of colors. So that's going to be sort of the hard battle for me, is like, well, this is a nice phone at $399. You get the fingerprint reader, you get Marshmallow right now, but $399, a Moto X Pure has higher end specs, got a better processor. That's going to be tough. But one of the other things, and you said it's a mid-range phone. So the way HTC looks at it is, yes, Snapdragon 617 is a mid-range processor. It's not the 800 series, but it's the newest processor. It supports, though it's not available now, Quick Charge 3.0. And HTC looked at it like we could put, 810 or something, which is probably more expensive. It was already in the M9. It didn't do very well. It has overheating issues. Or we could try the latest from Qualcomm that's available. And so they did that. And obviously, I think it helped keep costs down because the Snapdragon 820 is not available yet. Neither are some of the other ones. So,
well, we've got a couple questions coming in specific to the A9, so I'm going to change things a little bit this week, and we're going to jump into a couple questions real quickly. From Brazen Franco, do you think HTC will manage to keep their 15 days update promise? Didn't they already make such a promise, or was it Motorola? And wasn't HTC the one saying that releasing every security update every month was unfeasible?
Yeah, okay, so from what I understand is the promise was only made for the unlocked version. So HTC doesn't have the restraints that carriers put on the software updates, which is the biggest problem, which I think was one of the issues it ran into with its 90-day guarantee on software updates that it frequently seemed to miss, right? Especially for some carriers. Verizon's notoriously really hard on updates. That's why you saw phones like the Droid Turbo this year that didn't get Lollipop until like 2 months ago. And now here we are with Marshmallow. So it takes a long time. Now, the promise is, again, on the unlocked model. I'm not sure if it's just the US or global. The US president made that promise yesterday, so it seems like it might be just the US, but that wouldn't make sense given that there's a global skew as well. So you have to consider there's that European version with 2 gigs and 16 gigs. There's this version in the US. There's also another version in Asia that has 3 gigs and 32 gigs of storage. So there are, so I don't know which one, but Motorola also has made those promises, and wasn't HTC the one saying that releasing security update every month unfeasible? Yes, that's true. They did say that, but one of the reasons it's unfeasible is because of the carrier restraints. At least that's HTC's view. So in this regard, if it's not sold through carriers, you're not buying it on AT&T, T-Mobile, or Sprint, which will also sell this phone, then you should be good. You got to pay the full price. So.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see here.
But I still agree, 15 days is pretty big promise. So
yeah,
sort of one of those wait and see things.
From Sachin Bahal, do you think HTC made the One A9 look so similar to the iPhone on purpose to help increase their sales? No.
Yeah, I can tell you. Actually, I have on the record quotes. If you guys will just bear with me for a second.
While he's looking that up, I'll dance like a monkey for those of you watching the show.
The reason that I bring this up is because we talked to the designers, and it looks like, here you go, it looks like that the phone sort of is the iPhone, but what we were told, actually I gotta bring it up one second, was that the rounded corners and stuff like that and the radiuses that help make it look like the iPhone, and when you look at the camera, specifically the flash module is circular, just like the iPhone here, and you can see the two side by side. I have it in a case. They said that these concessions were made as the design process went on. So like they couldn't fit, I can't bring up the quotes, but basically they couldn't fit the longer elongated flash. It sort of looks like I have the G4 here that looks like, more of an oval shape. They couldn't fit that on there. The edges ended up being rounded like the iPhone because that's what they did as they continued, molding the device. I don't know about the bottom. It looks very similar. HTC is really well known for their boom sound speakers, and those aren't here anymore. And they said they couldn't fit them, But if you've seen other Desire devices, and I'm holding this up to the people on the screen, they don't always have these huge boom sound speakers on the top and bottom. They just have this tiny gap between the top of the phone and the bottom and the display where the speakers usually sit. And that's not here on this phone. Instead, it's just on the bottom, which looks very much like an iPhone. So, you know, can I answer, will it help increase sales? Well, it seems to have worked for Samsung, but Samsung's doesn't look as close to the HTC One. So I don't know. We'll see.
Now, my question, how many phones are on your desk right now?
Yeah, a lot. Well, I'm in the process of reviewing this, so I'm like, okay, well, I want to see how identical a lot of these look, especially from the bottom and stuff like that. But no, I don't. The story I was told from HTC is that this isn't something they did on purpose. Now, whether you want to believe that or not, whether I want to believe that or not, I don't know. But I don't think HTC's always been praised for their hardware design. So I don't think they were like, oh, people didn't like the way our other phones looked, we have to make it look like an iPhone, because that doesn't make sense to me. You know, the shortcomings to their other phones were issues with, you know, the camera, for example, on the M9. The M7 didn't have expandable storage. So like people were going to other phones for other reasons, I thought. But, you know, maybe someone secretly said, let's build an iPhone clone. I have no idea.
We're getting, this goes back to a point that you brought up earlier from, and I know I'm going to mispronounce this first name, and I apologize, Kasich Shah. Will Marshmallow allow you to utilize the external SD card exactly as the internal memory to install apps, etc. to it? I'm going to say, yes. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what it is. Here, I'll bring it up for people that can see. You go into storage and USB. So if you're looking at, it's not going to come into focus. So I have 12 gigs used on my phone's internal storage, and then I have an SD card with 58 gigs available. Now, if I click it, Samsung SD card, I get an option, and I go into settings. You get an option to format as internal. And when you top that, it says this requires the Samsung SD card. Now, that's just the brand of the SD card I have in it. To be formatted to make it secure. After formatting, the Samsung SD card will only work in this device. And that's what I was saying earlier. You could probably reformat it. Formatting erases all data currently stored on the Samsung SD card to avoid losing the data, consider backing it up, blah, blah, blah. So then it is used as local storage, which is something that we haven't seen on Android before Marshmallow, where you're installing tons of games and maybe you move some of the local files over to your SD card, but those games still eat up, say, the 16 gigs or 32 gigs of storage on your drive, and you kind of run out. You can't move them over to micro SD card, which might have plenty of space. Now that's sort of alleviated. So I think it's very cool, but I haven't obviously turned it on yet.
Cool. No, I think that's something that's needed to be done for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. It's great.
From Justin Struve, and we touched on this a little bit. He's asking, how's the camera?
Yeah, so I brought up the camera spec details last week when we first received the device, and that one went to Irvine for our unboxing, so I just got this one for the review. It has the same module, as far as I could tell, as the Nexus 6 and the OnePlus One, I think. Certainly the OnePlus One. But Samsung or HTC's software tweaks seem to have improved it. It doesn't look like shots taken with either of those phones. So it's a Sony module. There's a Toshiba one in the M9, that 20.7 megapixel camera that was not very good. It seems to be pretty good so far. It's not the best I've used. Certainly, I think you'd be better off with an S6 or an iPhone or whatever, but G4. But you know, those phones cost a lot more than $399.
Very cool. I'm going to take one more A9 question before we change topics, and then we will get to the rest of the questions during the Q&A session. And I thank you all. You are asking some great questions, but this one made me chuckle. From Brazen Franco, did you ask the designers why the HTC logo above the home button?
I didn't, and I'm not sure for people here. You can see HTC sort of right above the home button. Now, the interesting thing about that home button, though, is it's the fingerprint reader, but then there's also the on-screen buttons there you can see. But if you say I'm in Chrome or something like that, if you tap just the fingerprint reader, it still acts as a home button, which is kind of neat. But it's not physical. It doesn't have any move to it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the second topic we wanted to touch on was a trailer for some little movie that's coming out. That
what movie is that again?
I don't know. It looked interesting. It caught my attention. I'm not sure many people have seen the trailer yet.
Yeah,
it's only at 28 million views. And it only did $6.5 million in IMAX sales on the first night, which the old record was 1 million.
Crazy.
Apparently, people are still into this whole Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
I don't know.
But so what we thought we would do, folks, is, as people know from reading the site and listening to the show, I'm a little bit of a Star Wars geek, just a tiny bit. Todd has seen all the films, but
I've seen them all. I liked them. I loved growing up with them, but I'm sort of like, I'm not a geek at all. I don't know the culture. I don't know the backstory.
You enjoyed them as movies.
Right. And I enjoyed the video game that we were just playing.
Unlike me, you didn't change it into a lifestyle.
Yes, true.
Exactly.
So, I'm still the guy who says that big walking thing, like, let's attack that instead of AT-AT.
Oh, God.
I know. My friends, I was playing with my friends. They're like, Todd?
I'm turning red.
So now you know how separate we are on the topic.
I remember when my parents bought me back in 1980, 81, they bought me the big AT-AT toy.
Yeah.
And my parents decided it was big enough to be called Dog Spot. They told me that was our second dog. But
that's awesome.
So the Force Awakens trailer, of course, is what we're discussing. It came out this week. The first thing I'm going to say is, from the opening moment, I was struck by just how visually gorgeous this movie is.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks unlike any other Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
And as my mother said, wow, this almost looks like it was done by a professional. I was like, oh,
burn.
Sick George Lucas burn.
Yeah.
But
I think one of the things too, I was super excited to see the dog fight going on, and I was like, oh man, like I wanted to jump up and like, I gotta see this movie. So I thought that was exciting.
There's a lot going on in that trailer. Seeing an X-Wing TIE Fighter dogfight, especially in an atmosphere, and it looks like it happens on two separate planets. So it looks like we're going to get multiple dogfights. Not to mention the TIE fighters chasing the Falcon through the wreckage on Jakku.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, everything about this movie just screams. Although I was surprised we didn't get the emotional impact of the second trailer, with Han and Chewie, and Han going, "We're home."
Right.
There was no. Hey, folks, I'm going to admit it. I choked up a little bit when that happened in the second trailer. There was no choke up moment for me. This was much more about the new characters and a little bit of Han, a little bit of Leia.
Right.
So, but let me be very clear, folks. I know more than I'm going to say because I don't want to spoil anyone, and I've read far, far too much of leaks. So, Todd, I know you have a couple questions, and we'll just start from there.
Yeah. So one of my questions was, it seemed to me like they weren't aware that Jedis existed before, and I was asking you before the show, sort of, is this like when Obi-Wan comes back and talks to young Skywalker and sort of brings him into what Jedis are in the culture?
And that's the interest. I'm getting asked that question more by people than any other question of why would they not know about the Jedi and the Sith?
Right.
Well, the Jedi Purge happened at the end of Revenge of the Sith, which was 20 years prior to A New Hope. Mm-hmm. This is now 30 years after Return of the Jedi. There's about 3 years in the original trilogy. So you're looking at about 53 years since the Jedi Purge. What is known is that the Emperor did order that anything related to the Jedi throughout the galaxy was destroyed. So there really is no evidence of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. Even owning a lightsaber was considered illegal. So it's not totally out of reason to me that younger people would not have any clue who the Jedi were. Now, the interesting thing is the mobile game that you played for a couple days with me, Star Wars Uprising. There, on one of the planets, there is a hologram of an Imperial officer. This is post Return of the Jedi is when this game happens. There's a planet where a hologram of an Imperial officer is saying, these rumors of the destruction of the Death Star and the death of the Emperor are hearsay and they're illegal to discuss. And this game is considered canon. So there is a chance. So we know the First Order is an offshoot of the Empire. There's a chance that if you're within First Order controlled space, that this is illegal to even discuss.
Wow.
Yeah. So how much they'll go into that in the movie, I don't know. I think a lot of that, though, is, hey, we got a whole bunch of kids coming into the film that have no clue what's going on. But it was very interesting to hear Han have to confirm that information.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, I'm super intrigued by that little plot point. And then I know you had another question about who the guy in black is.
Yeah. Who's the new bad guy?
So the new bad guy is, what we know about him so far is his name is Kylo Ren.
Right.
He is not a Sith. That took everyone by surprise. He is Force sensitive. He is in touch with the dark side of the Force, but he is not a Sith per se. And for those that aren't aware, Sith are Darth Vader was a Sith. The Emperor was a Sith. Kylo Ren is a member of a group called the Knights of Ren, which I believe we see. There's a shot of Kylo Ren in the rain with some guys surrounding him. I believe they're the Knights of Ren. What the Knights of Ren are, we have no idea yet. But so he aspires to be a Sith, apparently, and that's why he's got Darth Vader's melted, funky helmet, which the helmet is really, so Luke burned his father, on the funeral pyre at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Right.
He didn't clean it up.
No.
He left the Ewoks with a big pile of ashes and went, I'm out of here.
One of the Ewoks sold it on Star Wars eBay.
Yup, nup. We're in the money, yup, nup. I'm a little puzzled by the helmet just being out there.
Yeah. You think they'll even explain that, or are we just supposed to accept it?
I think it's just going to be a thing. I highly doubt there's going to be like a backstory to how Kylo Ren obtained Vader's helmet. The comment, though, that Kylo says to the helmet of "I will finish what you started," I feel must apply to purging the entire galaxy of Jedi. Right. He knows that Luke is still out there somewhere. And this is where I won't go into spoilers. There's a reason we aren't seeing Luke in the trailer.
Oh.
And that he's not on the poster. He is in the movie. I can confirm he is in the movie, but I think there's a very specific reason why they're not showing him.
Darn.
And no, I don't
wish you didn't know the answer.
Yeah, he's not Kylo Ren. I've heard many people is he Kylo Ren? No, he's not Kylo Ren.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, there's not going to be a remove the helmet and it's Luke under there moment.
Okay.
Yeah, thank goodness. No, it's actually been made very clear that Kylo Ren is being played by an actor named Adam Driver, who's best known for being on the series Girls.
Oh.
And there is one shot in the trailer where you see Kylo with his helmet off, but it's from the back, and it's very definitely Adam Driver's hair.
How much are the old characters, Han Solo, for example, going to have a role in this movie?
Okay, so Han, I don't know yet where he's been or why he doesn't have the Falcon. That part of the spoilers has been kind of iffy. He's in it significantly, and he does, as you can see in the trailer, he does go on a quest with Rey and Finn. Leia is now leading the Resistance, which you've seen the Resistance base in the trailer. Why it's called the Resistance as opposed to the Rebellion, I'm not positive. Apparently, the galaxy is very fragmented. Okay. And so, unlike under the Old Republic, which was one rule, or under the Empire, which was one rule, it's kind of like fiefdoms now.
Okay.
All over the galaxy, because there was such a power vacuum after the death of the Emperor. So, yeah, and there's... I won't say what the red flash is. The red flash is important. that awesome scene of Kylo Ren on the Star Destroyer bridge, and you see that red flash. That's important. As for Finn holding the lightsaber, that's the other question I'm getting a lot. There's somebody who is force sensitive in the movie, but it kind of bounces back and forth who it is, so I'm not going to say a whole lot on that. But
Okay.
a lot of the movie has to do with getting Luke's original lightsaber, which was Anakin's lightsaber, which, once again, one of those weird things, it fell down the shaft of Bespin Cloud City. So all I can figure is a janitor named Bob picked it up at the bottom of the shaft. And he went on Star Wars eBay.
Yeah.
And had an account like the Ewoks and sold it.
Yeah.
The relics from the original trilogy showing up are kind of got me going, wait, what?
What? How's that possible? That's actually pretty weird. You should write these backstories and put them online for when people Google them.
Yeah, the lightsaber, I mean, it fell down several miles. And it looks like it's fine.
I don't know.
Apparently lightsabers are tough and don't get scratches.
They look pretty tough.
Yeah, but from Tavis Tap, it's probably people getting excited while waiting for the return of Jar Jar Binks.
No.
Shut up. Jar Jar, as far as I'm concerned, is dead.
Yes.
That's not canon, but I'm assuming he's dead.
What's
Jar
the backstory on Jar Jar Binks? Like, who thought that was a good idea?
Lucas. He thought kids needed a character to connect to.
Really?
And the thing is, this is what I love about Jar Jar, is that people are so blinded by their hatred of Jar Jar that they don't realize that in the third film, he essentially creates the Empire.
Really?
He puts the motion in front of the Senate to give the Supreme Chancellor all these powers, which makes Palpatine the Emperor. And if you sit there and if you connect the dots for 2 seconds, you're like, Jar Jar Binks just created the Empire and screwed the entire galaxy.
That's pretty funny. I'll have to go back and watch that.
It's really, you have to think about it for a few seconds, but then you're just like, that's really kind of funny that Lucas was like, yeah, y'all hate Jar Jar, wait till you see this.
Now you're really going to hate him.
Now you're really going to hate him and realize, oh, he wasn't such a bad guy till now. From Sachin Bahal, will Star Wars The Force Awakens have lots of lens flares that J.J. Abrams is known for? So far, I've only seen one lens flare. So the thing is, if you talk to J.J. Abrams about it, he didn't realize how many he was putting in Star Trek till he watched it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, even after the first Star Trek film, it was brought up, and he goes, honestly, I didn't realize until I watched the completed film.
Oh, man.
And at that point, it was too late to take him out. And so he is aware of his lens flare problem. He sought help. I believe he went to lens flare rehab. And so lens flares, while they fit the Star Trek universe, they really don't fit the Star Wars universe. The Star Wars universe is much more gritty and grimy and dirty and all that. So I don't think we're going to have the lens flare problem. But okay, so we'll jump back into the questions here, and thank you all for indulging my Star Wars fanaticism. From Jeff K, have they mentioned any future details for the M10?
No, they won't even recognize that name or anything at this point. So we don't know when that'll be. The M9 came last year at Mobile World Congress at the end of February, early March. I forget what date it was, but that's probably the time frame we'll see the next one, if I had to guess.
Yeah, we haven't even started hearing rumors about the M10 yet.
Yeah, the thing is, yesterday was their big global announcement for this. So, I mean, all efforts, all sites, everything is behind the A9 right now. Like, ask somebody about the M10, they'll be like, there's the door.
Yeah.
We just put everything into this. So,
yeah,
nothing yet.
From Brazen Franco, what did you return this week, Todd?
Nothing that I know Oh man, but I was so close yesterday to buying the red version of this. I just don't know when it's going to ship. They said that, yeah, I know, it's crazy. And then, Nexus 5X, Moto X Pure, those are all sort of on my radar now, but I don't know. I finally played with the 6P yesterday for the first time, new Nexus 6P, and I thought that was really nice too, but that's a little more than I want to spend. I mean, I just bought the 6S Plus, so that was my big purchase, and now anything else is coming.
Oh, phones.
Yeah.
Remember when all we cared about was if they made calls?
Yeah. And now, I mean, I was talking to another journalist yesterday too about the 6S Plus and how in our review we said, like, it's if you have the 6 or the 6 Plus, it's not worth the upgrade. And this journalist agreed. I mean, it doesn't add that much. So I'm still kind of in that regret boat, but I'm not going to return it.
Yeah, you say that now.
Well, because my wife has my 6 Plus.
From Jonas Gameo, how do you feel about HTC removing boom sound?
I'm bummed. So actually, it technically has boom sound, and that's the feature that they do to amplify the microphone jack. So when you put headphones in, you get the upgraded audio. I'm not an audiophile. I can rarely hear the differences in those kind of things, so I don't use them that much. But it's the same upgrades that the S6 does, or very similar in any case. Upsampling. Boom sound, so that's what boom sound is now on this phone. The boom sound speakers are gone. There's nothing, and I think that's a bummer. I really like having phones, when possible, that have front-facing speakers, just because it's nice when you're watching a YouTube video, the audio is coming right at you. This has the speaker on the bottom, like the iPhone and the S6 and stuff, and it's actually pretty loud, though. So it's not bad. It's just that the audio, it's just not coming at you. It's not as engrossing as boom sound speakers have been.
That seems so odd they dropped that when they're so well known for it.
I know. They said that, look, with the fingerprint reader and the front-facing camera and the screen that we wanted, we couldn't fit it. I don't know if I buy that because, like I said, the Desire series has had that small bar, which works really well. So,
from Brezen Franco, is it a better value than the Moto Style?
I haven't used a lot of the Moto X Pure and the Moto Style, especially the Moto Style, because that's not available in the United States. So I don't know, but I think so far, and this is less than 24 hours that I've had this phone. Right now, I think it's a good value for fans of HTC that want Marshmallow and a fingerprint reader, and expandable storage. The Moto phones look really nice, and I think I'm talking to Irvine about grabbing the Moto X Pure for this review because it's so close in price to this, but has higher specs. And I know that the style is not as high as even the Pure, but so it's one question I can't answer to say, but I think they're both really good deals.
Cool. Interesting. From Sahal Raja, what's the point of the HTC A9?
If I had to guess, and that's a good question because especially as a flagship in the United States, where the M9 should be, they didn't have the M8 and then come out with an A8. If I had to guess, it's because the M9 probably wasn't selling well. And I think that's, whether consumers were worried about the Snapdragon 810. And I feel like most consumers don't know about that. They probably do know about the camera because they care about that. If that was the issue, then they probably wanted to have a phone that just quickly came out and replaced that, and that's my guess. But I also think they're trying to drive direct sales to their website, where you buy this unlocked phone at $399, sort of the way Motorola is doing things. And this is a price point that is attractive to do that versus, say, the M9 you can buy unlocked at HTC, but it's more than $600. So this save $200.
From Jonas Gameo, are you guys watching Star Wars Rebels? Well, I am. I haven't caught up on the season 2 premiere yet, but yes, I did watch season 1 and loved it. I also loved Clone Wars. It was great. From Justin Struve, does the 617 keep up?
Yeah, I was worried about that. Snapdragon 617 as opposed to something like a 808 or an 810. So far, so good. I downloaded some games last night, and I haven't played them yet today. But multitasking everything has been really good. It's fluid. I did notice some stuttering at times, but it was quick, and I think it's because the phone was still setting up. Again, I've had it for less than 24 hours. So after a few days, when I do my review, I'll have the final opinion. But so far, I'm not seeing any huge difference between this and $600, $700 flagship phones, which is pretty impressive. 3D graphics, I've heard reports that it struggles a bit in some of the high-end games, like the new Need for Speed. So I'll have to test that.
Cool. From it starts with a Z. Zahara, I'm thinking. HTC made A9 and called it Hero Phone because HTC can't do well at holiday season with boring M9. A9 will do better, maybe save the company, so they announced the M10 later. A9 is not for geeks. I would agree. I think, and that's something I think a lot of people have to remember. Look, we make our living from talking about phones, but we are still the minority in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I go in a carrier store, I see people that have no knowledge of the phones on the shelves.
Yeah,
not a bit.
Mm-hmm.
This at this price point could be a very attractive phone.
Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, geeks. Well, I think there's two sides to that story. I don't know that it's necessarily not for geeks because right now you have geeks that are going to buy the Nexus devices or this because these are the first Marshmallow devices. Now in a couple months, is this for geeks? No, it's not because there's going to be several Marshmallow devices. But yeah, I think geeks mostly go for these high spec, quad HD. They want the best, your Galaxy S6 Edge Plus, Galaxy S6, G4, those kind of phones, Nexus 6P. That said, I think things are changing. I think a lot of geeks in a lot of ways are like, as carriers are moving away from 2-year contracts, and if you don't want to pay this monthly fee, you buy the outright device. And now you either go out there and spend $1,000 or slightly less than that and buy the 128 gigabyte model or something like that, or you're like, I'm going to go buy this $400 phone. It's pretty good. And whether you're spending that $400 on the A9 or the Moto X Pure, I don't know, but I think those are becoming, that price point especially is becoming a more attractive point. And even for geeks, even for people, just because simply you don't want to spend that much money on these phones. And, geeks like myself, I do, but I don't want to continue buying these several times a year, or maybe I am buying these several times a year, in which case that's why the $400 price point is more compelling than say, one $800 phone every year. You could buy 2 of these and you're upgrading in some regards.
Yeah, that's very true.
I'm having long answers because these devices are very new for, like, when you come in for a review. Like, we used to, for most of my career, I don't know, 8 years now in journalism, you come in and you'd be like, okay, it's $200 on a new contract. How do I rate this phone against other $200 phones on a contract? But now you're looking at, well, this is $400 off contract, but you could get $200 on contract on some carriers for this device, or maybe you're going to spend $1,000 and you're going to get a lot of hardware. And now you got to figure out, like, okay, so what's this worth really, and what should people buy? And that's becoming a really tricky question to answer, which is why you're starting to see on our site, we've gone to buy, wait, and don't buy for a lot of our phone reviews, because you can't, it's so much harder now to say, like, well, this is a 7 and this is a 10 and why, because the price points are just totally different, and what people want and need or how they're buying their phone is so different now.
Well, the other problem we were running into was people didn't understand that the scale worked, and we were judging the phone against itself.
Yeah, judging the phone against itself and the promises made by the manufacturer.
Exactly. So just because this phone was a 9 and we put this one at a 10 doesn't necessarily mean that this phone was better than the 9. It met everything, all the criteria. So
that's the hardest thing, because you have phones like the brand new Moto G that costs $200, and then you have the Galaxy S6 that costs $800, right? And you're like, well, that's a really great phone for $800. It's very high end. It's awesome. And then you're like, the Moto G is incredible for $200. What an awesome phone. People would be proud to carry that. And you could give them both the same score because they both meet those promises that they're offering the consumer, but they're totally different devices. Like, of course, the Galaxy S6 is a better phone than the Moto G, but for who and for how much? And that's why this is all becoming, these questions are harder and harder to answer.
Yeah, there's so many different verticals now of phones that it's impossible to judge them against one another.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It's also fun. It's never been like this, at least in the United States.
Yeah. From Brazen Franco, are you playing Star Wars Uprising, Sean? Yes, I am. You can find me as Nace, Sean backwards, Anua, Ani backwards, and there's actually a
that.
Yeah, it's Nace Anua is just Sean Ani backwards.
My name's Dot Noslata.
Yeah, and there's a Buffalo Cartel. So if you're looking for a Cartel Uprising, join us.
So you're still playing that?
I
kept playing.
Dude, I'm a Star Wars geek.
I should have kept playing. It was like I think I was playing on a Saturday on the couch, and I played for several hours and ranked up, joined your cartel, and then
yeah, you played a bunch for one day.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go out here on a question from Such a Bahal because it is October 21st, 2015. Off topic, which Back to the Future movie is your favorite and why? And what is your favorite moment from that film?
Oh, man. I haven't watched it in so long. That's my problem.
I like 1 and 2 and see, I don't hate 3 like a lot of people do. I love 1 and 2 for very different reasons. 1 was a great story. 2 was a mind bender. And one of the few films that I feel has ever gotten time travel correct.
I thought Hot Tub Time Machine did a pretty good job.
I have not watched Hot Tub Time Machine. I want to.
Those movies are so stupid funny.
But picking between the 2. Oh, that's tough. I would say probably 2, and I would say my favorite moment, just because it's so bizarre, is the delivery of the Western Union telegram at the exact moment, at the exact time, at this exact place. Because Doc had sent the Western Union telegram back in the 1880s.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool. Yeah, the fact that the Western Union office had sat on this telegram for 70 years. It just cracked me up. I don't know why. But
I don't know what mine would be.
I love all 3 movies.
Yeah.
They're all great.
I have to watch them all again.
I still can't believe that we've actually reached this date.
Yeah, I know. When I was writing that post today about Siri, I was like, that's crazy. Because there were so many times where it was just a hoax, an online hoax. Like, this is the date. In fact, how many years did that happen? It seemed like it happened a bunch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
and
no, it did happen
here. But as I was writing the post, I was like, they didn't have Siri back then, but they had hoverboards. And it's like, well, which one would you rather have? Obviously hoverboards. But now we have these Segway things.
Yeah.
People are riding, not Segways, but the skateboard, they're leaning back and forward. I told you a story. When I was flying home from IFA, I saw Justin Bieber was on my tram in Detroit riding on one of these things, just back and forth. I looked up and I'm like, wait, that's Justin Bieber.
Oh, so bizarre.
Yeah.
So bizarre.
So I feel like we are in the future.
Well, folks, I apologize. We can't get to all the questions. There are a ton of them, and I always hate leaving questions on the table, but we do have a time limit here, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So, as always, we do appreciate you joining us. You can go over to the iTunes store and search on the TechnoBuffalo Show, and we do appreciate if you rate and review us over there. You can also find us on Pocket Cast. You can subscribe via RSS feed, and you can find us on the Stitcher app, which means you can listen to us anytime, anywhere. Anywhere there are podcasts, you can find the TechnoBuffalo Show. Until next week, I'm Sean Ani. I'm the editor-in-chief of TechnoBuffalo. I've been joined by Deputy Managing Editor, Todd Hazelton.
Bye, everybody.
And we'll see you all back here next week. Till then, take it easy. Bye-bye. As soon as the show decides to stop...
What's that?
The show's still live. It's not...